I consider this the old ache, the loop of second-guessing, the way I used to confuse appeasement with love and silence with grace. No, boundaries aren't abandonment. They are the architecture that keeps a life from collapsing under the weight of other people's preferences. I ask myself a question I've come to trust when doubt tries to dress itself up as kindness. What would you tell Maya if her family treated her like yours treated you? The answer arrives with a clarity that has nothing to do with anger and everything to do with air. I'd tell her she deserves people who see her worth. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and tell where are you watching from. It's the Thursday before Thanksgiving, and I'm hosting dinner in our home. The table extended and dressed like a promise. Linen runners smooth beneath my palms, crystal catching the light, rosemary woven through the napkin rings, a simple arrangement of late-season eucalyptus and pale chrysanthemums in a stone vase at the center. Ethan moves around me with comfortable purpose, carving knife in his hand like a conductor's baton, humming a tune he never remembers the name of. Naomi sets wine glasses in a perfect arc, the soft clink and accidental percussion. Sarah arranges the pies near the sideboard. And I tell myself, again for the last time, that this year will be different, that a mother's invitation means something, that the past can stop being an active verb. Then I look at the 2 place cards at the end of the table. Emily and Jake handwritten in an ink I picked because it dries quickly and doesn't smudge, and I silence my phone for the 14th time in 20 minutes because every glance at its blank screen feels like being chosen last in a game I never agreed to play. A soft knock at the kitchen. Doctor breaks the rhythm. Aunt Rose leans in, cheeks flushed from the cold, carrying her reliable sweet potato casserole crowned with a layer of toasted pecans that crackle like kindling under the spoon. "It's time to plate, Susan," she says, stepping inside, the warmth lifting her sigh. "Are you ready?" My eyes go to the end of the table, 2 empty chairs dressed with kindness, the soft throw over the back of one, because Emily always gets cold, the low-stem water glasses Jake prefers, because tall ones tip when he gesticulates mid-story. The candles breathe low and steady. The cranberry glaze shines like lacquer on the turkey. The name cards don't blink. They're not coming, are they? I hear my voice, and it's steady enough to pass for calm, but it has a quiver under it, a small, stubborn earthquake that nobody but me can feel. "There's still time," Aunt Rose says, and we both stand in that sweet, useless lie for a beat before letting it go together. I smooth the linen runner. I lift the platter, we move. When we carry the food out, 20 heads turn with the soft choreography of a room choosing to be kind. People smile, some too brightly, some with their eyes tilted at the empty chairs like they want to angle pity into discretion. The room fills with the generous noise of chosen family, Naomi's quick, delighted laugh, Sarah's dry aside that lands perfectly, Ethan's gentle, make room as he sets the turkey down. I pour gravy like a benediction and decide, again, that I will not cry. Not because it would be embarrassing, it wouldn't, or undeserved, it wouldn't, but because I refuse to let absence control the thermostat of my joy. Ethan brushes my hand as he takes his seat, a silent anchor. "I'm here," he says so low only the bones of my wrist can hear it. We're enough. His steadiness is not a performance. It's an ecosystem. For a moment, without warning, I'm 8 years old again in my parents' living room, where achievement lived on the mantle if it belonged to my brother, and in a kitchen drawer if it belonged to me. The debate trophy for him got dusted, repositioned, photographed from 3 angles. My art certificate for me got, "That's nice, honey," while the pot roast simmered unattended in triumph. I learned to outwork their indifference because I thought effort was a currency that could buy attention. And it took me a lifetime to realize attention was never the thing I wanted to purchase. I wanted to be seen. So now I raise my glass and say what I mean, to choosing people who see each other clearly. The words settle in the room like a soft, honest weight. Sarah raises hers in return. To finding the family who deserves you. Laughter slides around the table. Forks find pumpkin pie. The night chooses joy without pretending not to know sorrow is real. When the dishes are stacked and the last of the guests move to the living room with their plates balanced expertly on fingertips, I check my phone one final time like a person looking both ways on a one-way street. There is nothing from Emily, nothing from Jake, not even the dignified lie of a last-minute apology. The screen is as blank as the two-place settings that watched us eat. Ethan finds me by the sideboard, sets his plate down, and wraps an arm around my waist, the kind of ordinary intimacy that can make a person cry if she lets it. "They missed something beautiful today," he says, and I nod, feeling something inside me untangle. "Their choice," I say, and say it again to feel its shape. "Not my burden." I almost believe it. I do. 2 years later, I sit in my ergonomic chair and watch a sentence change my life in 12 words. Acquisition of Crescent Motion Studio, finalized at $21 million. The ink is digital, but it feels wet and real. The door explodes open, the good kind of explosion, and my team pours in with champagne and plastic flutes because glass is beautiful, but tile is unforgiving. "To Susan," Jen says, her voice cadenced by 100 late-night brainstorms and 5 near catastrophes, we turned into products with grit and luck. The woman who built something from nothing, while certain people weren't looking. We clink and laugh and allow ourselves the fluttering arrogance of people who pulled off something improbable and didn't make it look easy. My phone buzzes mid-celebration Instagram, of course. It's Emily, smiling with Jake in a neat carousel of photos, the twins in matching plaid uniforms, a caption about "family traditions continue" that pretends traditions are weather rather than choices. I shouldn't look, I look. The background tells a story money has been narrating under its breath for years. Vacations that cost what my first used car did. A neighborhood where nothing sells for under $2 million. Tuition figures that could fund an entire microgrant cohort. I do the math because that's what the neglected child in me still does. Jake's law firm is fine, good even, but not this. Cousins who remember I exist every few holidays have whispered the rest. Help from the in-laws. A quiet loan here, a quiet bailout there. The kind of support that is unremarkable in family stories that treat daughters-in-law like heirs and daughters like afterthoughts. The celebration ends in a flurry of hugs and lipstick on cheeks and plans to sleep uninterrupted for a weekend. I close my laptop and something in me closes with it and something else opens. The next morning I call my advisor and hear myself ask for a thing I would have once made a paragraph of disclaimers for. The Porsche Taycan, metallic gray. I want to complete the purchase today. The number isn't a surprise. I can do the math even when I refuse to apologize for wanting a car that makes me grin when I'm alone at a red light. 3 hours later, I sign for a $135,000 promise I made to a younger version of me who wanted, above all things, to be allowed to want. It is extravagant and unnecessary and exactly the right size for the part of my heart that remembers how it felt to be told, explicitly and implicitly, that my desire was a problem to be solved rather than a compass to be honored. I drive home humming the same half-remembered tune Ethan hums when he's content. Park in the driveway, step back to take a photograph the afternoon sun turns into gloss, and post it with a caption as small and sufficient as a period. Dreams realized. Silence for 3 days, the pleasant kind, like a house settling at night. Then Emily calls on Wednesday afternoon. Her name's strange and familiar at once on my screen. I answer and her voice arrives wearing that blend of urgency and authority she pulls on when she wants the world to pick up its pace for her. "We need to talk," she says. "Can we come by tomorrow?" The words "we" and "need" do their old choreography across my spine. I look out the window at the gray car in its clean line of light, and I hear myself ask, very gently, "After all this time, because you saw a photo of my car?" A pause. Then the shape of a story I have known was on its way since I first learned to triangulate between a real crisis and a convenient one. "It's complicated," she says, and the ellipsis is doing more work than the words. "Financial issues. We should discuss it as a family. The person I used to be would have rushed to preempt shame with generosity. The person I am now adds things and subtracts others and says, 2 o'clock, and hangs up first. I slide into the Porsche the next day, and the seat's cool leather feels like competence more than luxury. Like a tool I chose and paid for, Not a symbol anyone else gets to explain to me. The drive to Emily's house takes 40 minutes. A tidy length of road that lets me remember 100 tiny humiliations and forgive myself for how long I stayed at their mercy. Birthdays celebrated without me because the schedule was tight, holidays skipped with a breezy, "We'll try next year." Because trying costs nothing when the thing you're trying for belongs to someone else. Milestones of mine treated like traffic updates, noted, then forgotten. I park in the clean geometry of their cul-de-sac. The house is aggressively tasteful in a way that feels like it was purchased as a set rather than curated over time. White stone, black trim, those cube shrubs people hire other people to discipline into obedience. I am halfway up the walk when the door swings open, and there they are, my daughter and her husband, both wearing surprise like it's an expression rather than a tactic. Their eyes slide past me to the car. The math arrives in their faces before I've said hello. "You've done well for yourself," Jake says. Not hello? Not "it's good to see you." Just the sentence men choose when they intend to turn admiration into leverage. "Yes," I say, and step past him without offering a hug. Not as punishment, but as a truth I can finally live with. Affection without respect is theater. The dining room looks like it thinks it's in a magazine. The table a slab of aspirational wood. The chairs with those fragile backs that make you sit upright. A leather photo album arranged precisely on the runner like a silent argument. We sit. Emily's voice is firm, the way a bridge is firm until it isn't. "It's foreclosure," she says. And then it tumbles out. The mortgage 3 months behind. Tuition unpaid for the semester, the meeting with the bank that felt like a scolding. Jake pushes papers across the table. Loan forms already filled out. Interest terms that pretend to be generous without understanding the word. The presumption steals a breath and then returns it as resolve. "Think about your granddaughters," Emily says, tears brightening her eyes. "They shouldn't suffer because of..." She searches for... When I finally sleep, the sleep that follows a storm, it is not because everything is fixed. It is because I am no longer volunteering to be the weather. I raise my glass and feel the room lean toward me as if warmth were a physical thing we could all step closer to. "To those who see us as we are," I say, and the words move like a current along the table, catching every rim of glass, every shoulder easing down from the day. The toast echoes in soft clinks and low murmurs. My phone is off and out of sight, not because I'm pretending the outside world doesn't exist, but because I'm choosing which world gets to exist in me tonight. The meal conducts itself with a rhythm that feels earned. Ethan floating between the kitchen and the table with the unhurried confidence of someone who understands timing as a love language. Naomi drawing out stories with the kind of listening that makes people funnier and kinder than they thought they could be. Sarah slipping in a perfectly timed aside that breaks tension we didn't even know we were carrying. Laughter rises and drops like a tide. No one measures who belongs. The old undertow of judgment that once lived under every family gathering I knew, the subtle assessment, the silent arithmetic of worth, has no purchase here. We eat without apology. We compliment without envy. We pause to let silence rest without assuming it's a problem to be fixed. Over dessert, the apple tart just warm, the cinnamon threading through the air like a ribbon. My heart does the familiar little flutter it does before I say something that matters. I set down my fork, touch the linen with a fingertip as if to pin the moment in place, and clear my throat. "I want to share what's next," I say. Heads turn. The way heads turn when they know you're not asking for permission. The Foundation's mentorship program launches next month. I'll be personally involved with each recipient, not just monthly check-ins, but living, breathing mentorship. Weekly labs, shadow days, portfolio reviews, equipment grants. A career map that adjusts in real time, because we all know life refuses to be a straight line. My voice is steady, not because I rehearsed it, though I did, but because I believe every word. Across the table, Maya's eyes widen. She has that rare mix of shyness and audacity that makes young artists accidentally brave. "You'll be mentoring us yourself?" The question is part wonder, part caution. People like us learn young not to overbelieve in promises. Every step of the way, I tell her. Money opens doors, but it doesn't walk you through. This isn't just about checks. It's about hands and eyes and hours. It's about building something that keeps working after the photo op ends. Naomi nods, tapping a finger once on the table, her approval like a stamp. And the structures? They'll hold? They'll hold, I say. We've built independence into the bones. Governance with real teeth. Conflict of interest rules that don't wait for a scandal to grow a spine. Multi-signature approvals for large disbursements. Data we measure because impact is the only brag worth making. No one, especially not anyone with my last name, can meddle. Ethan grins because he knows me. Metrics? He says, half a tease, I can't help my smile. Completion of projects. Paid placements. Portfolio growth. A capstone piece per mentee. Emergency stipends used and resolved. Hours of mentorship delivered and evaluated. And, this part is my favorite, a quiet support fund. Micro grants for bus passes, childcare, rent gaps, a busted lens, a laptop hinge, the small things that derail big dreams. You won't have to write an essay that wrings out your trauma for $200. You just apply, you get it, you keep going. Maya lets out a breath she didn't know she was holding. I didn't know help could be that practical. It can, I say. It must. Later, when we're stacking plates in a choreography as old as kitchens, Ethan flips on the local news. We pretend it's background noise even though we timed this feature for this hour on purpose. On the screen, I talk about the foundation with a confidence that a few years ago would have felt like clothing borrowed from a larger life. We build family through action, not obligation, I say to the reporter. The camera glides across the studio, light pooling on polished floors. Hands adjusting a boom mic, Maya in profile. Aligning a shot with that fierce, tender focus that means she's trying to get out of the way so the truth can come forward. The segment dissolves into a clean, even-voiced analysis of finances, charts, lower thirds. The anchor's measured cadences, contrasting our transparent structures with case studies of mismanagement in the region. There's a brief, non-sensational reference to a boutique expansion that never expanded, a law partner who over-leveraged, a domestic empire run on IOUs and charm. No names. They don't need names. Anyone who has paid attention can fill in the blanks. The newsroom doesn't draw conclusions. It simply places two pictures side by side and lets the audience's eyes do what eyes do. They're comparing your brother's company to the foundation? Maya whispers. Not with malice, but with a kind of grief that someone like me had to learn competence as a counterspell rather than simply as a craft. Facts speak for themselves, I say, and surprise myself by how calm my hands are as I stack dessert plates. Where I come from, that wasn't true for a long time. Now it is. The next morning brings a text from a number whose digits I could type in my sleep even after years of silence. My parents want to meet. Coffee shop downtown. To talk, the message says. No apology. No reference to anything specific. Just to talk. The bland Swiss Army knife of phrases that can be unfolded into anything from confession to trap. I say yes, because saying yes costs me less now than ignoring them might. And because part of me believes in offering the chance to do right, even to people who have shown an Olympic-level commitment to doing otherwise. I arrive in the Porsche. Not as a message, though I know it will read as one, but because it is the car I drive and I refuse to narrate my tools for anyone else's comfort. Inside, Dad is older. Not just his face, but his posture. The way life has threaded weariness into his shoulders. Mom has a napkin folded into quarters and then eighths and then sixteenths, a nervous geometry she can't help. They both stand and then they both sit, and the choreography is so practiced it feels like they rehearse just beyond my view. We should have been there, Dad says, staring at his coffee like it might flip to a page in a manual and tell him what to do. At the wedding? I ask. I know the answer. I ask anyway. Everywhere, he says. The word drops heavy between us. All those years. Mom's eyes do the thing eyes do when you want to cry, and also to be seen as someone who cries for the right reasons. How can we fix this? She asks, as if what's broken is an appliance we can schedule a service call for. 3 months ago, I would have grabbed at that question like rope in a storm. Today, I set it on the table beside the sugar packets and look at it until it tells the truth. Some things can't be fixed, I say. Only accepted. Mom flinches. Dad exhales through his nose, a sound I know better than I know some of my own reactions. We're here, aren't we? She says. And it is half plea, half victory lap. You are, I say. And I'm willing to consider limited contact. But I need accountability, not convenience. I want you both to start therapy, together and individually, for 3 months. I'll ask the therapist to confirm attendance. I don't need to know what you discuss. I don't want to. But I need you to show up for yourselves before you show up for me. Dad starts to say it's unnecessary, and then he says it's unnecessary, as if the predictability of the script might retroactively make it wise. We don't need... It's non-negotiable, I say, not louder, just clearer. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're protections. I drive away without looking back for reassurance, and the absence of that impulse feels like shedding a winter weight I forgot I wore. The foundation awaits. Maya's project needs eyes. My chosen family expects me for dinner. For the first time, I feel the axis tilt. I'm moving toward something, not merely away. The studio of the Crescent. Foundation, the umbrella that covers the Rivera scholarships, and the emergency fund and the labs we invented, because no one built them for us, leans into the morning like it's making room. Tall windows spill light across the hardwood. The air smells faintly of coffee and gaffer tape, the holy sense of making. Maya is crouched by a tripod, squinting at a mark she's chalked on the floor. What do you think about this angle? She asks without looking up, because she has learned that the best notes come when you don't perform asking for them. Slide left 3 feet, I say, stepping beside her. Let the light skim her cheekbone instead of sitting straight on it. Give the face a place to land, see? I step behind the monitor and gesture. The histogram steadies, the frame breathes. There. Now the subject looks like herself instead of like a commercial for herself. She glances up, catches the shift, smiles with her whole face. You hear it when people say it, she says, almost to herself. But then there's when we wrap, the beekeeper peels off her gloves with that specific tenderness people reserve for tools that have served them well. She hands us each a small jar, still warm from the afternoon. For winter, she says, like a blessing that knows exactly where it's going. The honey glows a deep amber, the sort of color that makes you think of old libraries and the varnish on violins. Maya turns the jar in her hands as if it might hum if she hits the right angle. We thank our host, coil cables the way we teach, loose, patient loops. No hard bends, no future headaches, then load the cart with its small mountain range of cases. The yard is settling into that blue hour when color stops bragging and starts telling the truth. Bees thread back into their boxes. The beekeeper waves once, then twice, then is absorbed by the soft geometry of her hives. We're quiet on the walk to the car, the kind of quiet that seals the day instead of emptying it. Back at the foundation studio, we do what we always do. We close the circle on the work before the work starts to slip. Maya labels her jar with neat block letters and our agreed-upon taxonomy, date, location, project name, then tucks it onto the shelf we keep for such offerings. It's a small altar to what's real. A pebble from a riverbank interview, smooth and cold even in July. A Monopoly token gifted by a set designer who swears it's good luck to keep a miniature top hat near a lighting board. A thread of blue ribbon from a dancer's hair, vibrant as a yes. A subway card with $2 left on it, preserved like a talisman. A Polaroid of a boom mic held at a heroic, ridiculous angle during a storm. We collect them not as trophies, no plaques, no brass, but as proofs that story leaves a residue you can hold if you're careful. The shelf smells faintly like gaffer tape and paper and citrus hand sanitizer, which feels exactly right. Maya runs the jar lid under warm water to loosen the glue. Should the label say Apiary Road or Beekeeper's Yard? She asks, marker hovering. Apiary Road, I say. The bees live there even when she's sleeping. She nods, satisfied by the precision, then adds a tiny drawn hexagon in the corner because craft is craft, but delight is non-negotiable. She slides the jar into place between the ribbon thread and the top hat. For a second, we both just look. The shelf has become a map of how we work, our disciplines, our accidents, our little reliquary of courage. Later, after the lights in the main room dim to their evening low and the building's hum becomes its own lullaby, I sit on the studio couch with the day's mentorship reports. The couch is one we rescued from a set. Plain gray upholstery, surprisingly dignified. The cushions hold their shape but give just enough. We've done our best to make them forget they were ever background. The reports are brief notes from mentors to mentees and from mentees back to mentors. When I invented this system, I worried it would feel like bureaucracy. The wet blanket that smothers enthusiasm in the name of accountability. It doesn't. When it works, it reads like a chorus. Shot list finalized. One note begins. No exclamation points, just the quiet satisfaction of a plan that now exists in the world. Another. Childcare arranged thanks to micro grant. Can confirm I will arrive on time. Another. Rejection from that festival, but also feedback good enough to fix, resubmitting in 2 weeks. And another. My favorite refrain. Found a new angle. Tried again. Tried again. The notes don't posture. They don't sell. They witness. I make my way down the stack, writing my own replies where they belong. Trim 3 frames from the start. Let the viewer arrive instead of being dragged. Ask your subject to do the thing they would do if you weren't there. Film. That, if someone says you're too ambitious, write down exactly what you asked for. Keep asking. I circle questions. I draw arrows where energy wants to go, but the cut hasn't let it. I star the sentence from one mentor who troubleshot a sound issue at midnight over FaceTime from a bus stop. We fix it, or we learn how to fix it. Either way, we're not smaller tomorrow. When I'm done, I carry my own small jar of honey to the office and set it beside a photo of Miss Rivera and me. We're in a school hallway, single bulb fluorescence trying its best. She has her arm anchored around my shoulders in a gesture that remains the blueprint for how I anchor others. Our smiles share the same angle of stubbornness, like 2 people who refuse to be explained to by anyone who didn't love them. The honey shines beside us, winter insurance glowing like a hearth. Family isn't who raises you. It's who lifts you. I think the sentence, and then, for the first time, I don't have to say it to believe it. The room around me hums with the beautiful ordinary. Someone handing someone else a battery without commentary, because watching a take die for want of power is a grief we have learned to prevent. Someone untangling a snake of cable with the patience of a person who knows it's better to do a small thing right than a big thing twice. Someone ordering pizza after pretending not to be hungry all day. Someone staying late to help carry cases to a rideshare because the bus route skips our corner after 9. The air feels built, not found. I look around at this room that for years didn't exist for me, and then existed only as a fantasy that seemed impolite to speak aloud. I had to construct it before I could enter it. And it hits me not like thunder, which startles and then recedes, but like sunrise, which takes its time and then refuses to apologize. That I am lifted here, and I lift back, and the action is the family, and the family is the action. That is the whole point. Tomorrow, Maya will set up her next project board. I can see it because we've done it enough times that the ritual has worn a groove. Index cards clipped to cork with colored pins. The color coding equal parts function and joy. She'll draft a spine of scenes in pencil because pens are too confident for the early stage. She'll lay beats across the top like stepping stones over a creek that looks wider from the bank than it feels underfoot. She'll pace away, then pace back, then sigh, then smile, then replace 3 cards with 1 because simplicity is a love letter we forget to write to our future selves. I'll arrive with a pen, a spare card, and the question that never retires. What are you trying to say, and what is the simplest, truest way to say it? We'll erase 3 times and keep the 4th. We'll let a silence do a job I used to bully words into doing. We'll walk out at dusk with pockets full of small problems and heads clear enough to trust that small problems are where the craft lives. On the drive home, the city lights arc across the hood of my car and hop to the windshield like brief, friendly ghosts, here, then gone, then here again. Traffic moves with that lazier, end-of-day intelligence. Everyone slightly too tired to perform righteousness. Everyone slightly more human than they remembered. I park, cut the engine, and sit in the soft aftermath that follows work done honestly. There's a quiet that isn't emptiness, just space. Inside, the kitchen lights are a warm committee. On the counter, Ethan has left a note in his ridiculous block letters that always lean just a little too far right, as if they're hurrying toward applause. Proud of you. Proud of us. Spaghetti in the fridge. He has drawn a cartoon bee that looks more like a potato with wings, grinning as if entirely unconcerned with aerodynamics. I laugh out loud, then, because the body remembers, I cry for a minute the way a roof leaks for a minute after the storm is over, not because it's still raining, but because water finds the last low place and says goodbye there. A small grief completes itself. The room makes room. I wipe my face with the kitchen towel, heat the spaghetti until the sauce reclaims its shine, and send Maya a text before I forget the precise shape of the note I want to give her. Great eye today. Don't overcut scene 3. Let the breath sit. A moment later, my phone buzzes with a bee emoji, a heart, and the word okay, which on her screen probably means, I heard you and I trust myself, and on mine feels like a sacred contract. I will not rush what needs space. I carry the jar of honey to the table and hold it up to the light. It bends the bulb's glow into a soft, living amber, as if the day condensed itself and decided to stay. Outside, another family drifts past my window, bundled, talking in that low evening murmur that suggests small logistics. Did you grab the keys? And small tenderness. I like your hat. They move towards somewhere that belongs to them. Inside, I am in mine. The distinction lands without ache. I don't check my phone for old ghosts. They can wander the halls of their own stories without me. I don't rehearse speeches for doors that will never open in the shape I wanted them to. I don't bargain with the physics of time. Instead, I set another place at the table in my mind and sometimes in my kitchen, for whoever needs one next. I keep the kettle full. I make lists that build bridges and refuse to trap. Call the lens repair tech. Finalize travel stipends for the winter cohort. Draft the worksheet on shooting in low light with cheap gear. Email the union rep about the panel. Follow up with the principal who wants us to visit her media class. Approve the invoice for the high chair we keep in the gear room because artists are also parents, and parents are also artists. I prepare another grant cycle with my favorite trio of questions. What will you make? What will it change? What will it cost that we can help you carry? I schedule another lab and title it like a dare, the cut you're afraid of. Because fear is information, and sometimes the story wants you to jump so it can hand you the bridge on the way down. I write another note to Miss Rivera that I will never send. You taught me to print a rough cut and write on it with a pen because you said ink makes you fight for your decisions. You taught me to clap loudly in first. You taught me that staying late is a love language. I tuck the note into a folder labeled Letters I Owe, and then send its spirit to someone who needs it with a text that says simply, show me your least confident scene tomorrow. When the lights go out that night, the darkness isn't empty. It's full of the work we did, the work waiting for us, the lives we will brush and be brushed by. The hallway outside my office holds a faint scent of coffee and sawdust, because earlier we cut a new shelf for the mic cases. The printer hums once as if clearing its throat before bed. The neighborhood settles. A dog collar shakes, a bus exhales, a bicycle chain whispers toward home. I sleep without rehearsing the past, which is a sentence I could not say for years without caveats. Morning finds me already halfway to the studio in my head, laying out a new pattern for a space designed to hold what I once thought I had to hold alone. I wake before the alarm and make tea in the dark, just for the sound of a kettle deciding to sing. The first steam curls up like a ribbon of permission. I pack my bag with the unglamorous tools that keep days from falling apart. Protein bar, ibuprofen, extra SD cards, the adapter that lives in perpetual endangered status, a Sharpie, a second Sharpie for when the first inevitably walks away. I slip the honey jar into a tote wrapped in a dish towel, It's coming to the morning staff meeting as show and tell because adults need show and tell more than children do. I jot a meeting agenda on the back of an envelope because all good agendas start their lives as other things. 1. Maya's cut. Scene 3 breath. 2. Quiet support fund. Bus pass partnership. 3. Lighting workshop dates. 4. Volunteers for Saturday's camera care clinic. Teach your gear to love you. 5. Grant cycle theme. Working title. Small rooms. Big light. On the train, I stand by the door and practice my favorite game, noticing without collecting. A man in a high-vis jacket scrolls photos of a toddler with bedhead and a serious expression. A teenager paints her nails with the kind of attention usually reserved for surgery. A woman in scrubs sleeps with her mouth open and no one laughs, which is the kind of social miracle that makes me believe we might be okay. I don't script their lives. I don't cast them in mine. I let them exist. It feels like good training. When I step into the studio, the morning smells faintly of fresh paint. Naomi waves a brush at me from a ladder. "We patched the scuff where the dolly kissed the wall last week," she says. The dolly apologizes and promises to work on its boundaries. "Tell the dolly we accept its growth," I say, and hold up the jar. For winter. A small flock of yeses moves through the room. We gather around the table. The honey becomes an unofficial agenda item 0. We break off tiny pieces of toast and pass the jar and make the kind of noises people make when sweetness surprises them back into their bodies. "This is what it tastes like when a subject trusts you," someone says, and the room nods because you can taste that, actually. You really can. We move through the list. The bus pass partnership is a go if we can finalize the memorandum by Friday. The lighting workshop needs one more softbox and a volunteer who loves cables more than people for 2 hours. The camera care clinic sign-up sheet feels like a well. When we get to Maya's cut, we watch the scene together. The room stays quiet long enough for the breath to land, and then someone laughs softly and says, "There it is." Maya doesn't cry, but she looks exactly like a person who almost could. After the meeting, I walk through the studio and do the things that make a place itself. I straighten a stack of release forms. I fish a cable tie from under a shelf. I adjust the angle of a lamp so it stops glaring on the sound mixer's meters. I pause at the offering shelf and let my eyes land one by one on our small reliquaries. The pebble, the top hat, the ribbon, the subway card, the Polaroid, the new jar labeled in block letters, hexagon doodle winking. The shelf is ridiculous and perfect. It reminds me that we take nothing with us, and also we take everything with us, depending on how we define we. Before lunch, a mentee drops by with a problem that sounds like a problem but is secretly a compliment. "A reporter called me," she says, breathless. "They want a quote about my film and I panicked and told them I'd call back and then I panicked about the panic." "That's 2 panics," I say. "You've already beaten one." We practice the quote. It takes 5 minutes. She leaves standing taller, as if she just tried on her own future and it fit fine. I add a line to the agenda board for next week. Talking to press without selling your soul. In the afternoon, I take the jar back to my office because I like how it looks beside Miss Rivera's photo. On days when the work feels like carrying a piano up 3 flights for someone who hasn't yet learned to play, I will hold the jar up to the light and remember that sweetness accumulates molecule by molecule, trip by trip, offering by offering. The bees have never rushed. They have also never quit. Before I leave, I text Ethan, thinking spaghetti again. "Thoughts?" He replies with a photo of the ridiculous bee drawing, now wearing sunglasses. Buzz yes. I lock the studio, and as I step into the evening, I realize that I have gone a whole day without forgetting anything important, and also without trying to remember things that don't want me. It isn't triumph, it's posture. It's the angle at which my life now stands. On the sidewalk, a gust lifts the edges of the meeting agenda in my pocket. I catch it, laugh, tuck it deeper. Cars murmur past. Somewhere a saxophone practices scales imperfectly, and it is somehow the best sound I've heard all week. I head home, jar carefully cushioned in my bag, thinking of winter not as a threat, but as a season the bees have already planned for. We will be fine. We will keep a shelf for proof. We will set the table. We will leave a chair open. And we will keep the kettle full.